Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we are going to be ranking the best centers in NBA 2K22 MyTEAM on a tier list. Now, before we hop into this video, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 4,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day and would really appreciate your support if you haven't already, if you do subscribe. Also, huge shout out to my boy Ty and his editor, his brother Nate, for making this tier list and letting me use it for this video. Yeah, really appreciate them doing this. It saves me a lot of work from having to make my own center tier list when they already have one made. So shout out to Nate for making this and for them letting me hop on and record this video using this tier list. But yeah, without further ado, let's not waste the time. Let's hop right into it and start off with Al Horford. And there's a lot of, I'm gonna be completely honest, just looking at the center tier list, there's a lot of really mediocre centers in the game. Like this list I think is kind of going to be a bottom heavy list to a certain extent, just because a lot of these guys are not very good. Starting off with Al Horford, he's not a terrible card, but his jumper stinks, and that's like a really significant flaw even at the center position. If you have a bad jumper, it makes it very hard to run that card, and Al Horford is a great example of that. He's only 6'10", so he doesn't have elite size. 70 speed in Excel, which is not great speed, not a great dunker, not a great perimeter defender. Badges or cards like this that are reward cards aren't typically worth badging out, especially not a diamond who's just not that good. Doesn't get the sniper badge, needs quick first step, and I don't recommend adding badges to him. His jumper is super mediocre. He can shoot open, and he has decentish badges, and there are some truly really bad cards on this list, so I'm not going to put him in the D tier, but I do think he is a C tier guy, and I definitely do not recommend running this card at this point in the year. And I think there is even a chance that I may wind up moving him down to the D tier at some point. Alonzo Mourning, as I think is going to become a theme. We're going to see a lot of C tier type guys in this list. A card who's only 6'10", has good athleticism, solid defense, but needs badges in both shooting and playmaking. Jumper is 17, which is a gross jump shot. It's just not good at all. And overall, this card is another one who's just like decent defender, but that's about it. Not a great shooter. He can shoot open, but he needs a bunch of shooting and playmaking badges, and that jumper is atrocious. So just not another card that I recommend running. All right, Andre Drummond is going to be our third center of the video. He's going to be the third C tier center of the video. Another guy who just is not very good overall. He'd be much better if he could shoot at a consistent-ish level, but with only a 42 shot three, a low mid range, not the fastest jumper in the world. He has really solid defense, and his jumper actually isn't that bad compared to a lot of the big man jumpers. 35 is not that bad. It's the same as Chris Anderson, Nate Thurmond, and guys like that. And it's not that bad of a jumper. The problem with it is the fact that he has a 42 shot three. Even with shooting badges, you're just not going to be able to knock that down at any sort of consistent rate at all. You may green the very occasional three-pointer just because of how easy shooting is this year, but he cannot shoot the ball consistently enough to be any higher than a C tier center, in my personal opinion. Bargnani, I'm putting B tier only because of the weakness of the center position. I think I have to put some guys higher than the C tier, but I'm going to be honest. You'll see as we get in this video, there's only a few guys that I actually really think are worth running at that center position right now. But 7 foot with a 7'4" wingspan is good size. He's not the fastest card in the world and doesn't have elite defense, but the thing is, he is a really good shooter with half limitless, half sniper, half catch, half blinders, things like that. Doesn't get quick first step, but he does have some solid defensive badges, so on the interior he should be all right with his height. Jumper is really mediocre, but at least he has elite shooting ability, and that is something that I do value at the center position. So for that reason, I will put him in the B tier. Bogut, I think, is probably just a worse he's an interior center similar to Bogut, but he's similar to Andre Drummond, but he's slower. Still a terrible shooter. Jumper is awful. I think set shot 8 is yeah, it's not awful, I guess, but it's not good, and you're not going to be shooting with a 66 three-pointer, especially with no shooting badges, missing playmaking badges as well. He's just a defensive card similar to a guy like Drummond, but he's worse because he's slower and still completely incapable of shooting and things like that. So I think he's even worse, and I think for that reason he goes in D tier. Finally, we get to a great card, and that is Mr. Anthony Davis, one of the best centers, if not arguably the best center in the game currently. Definitely an elite all-around card. 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan. As an NBA 75 card, he can get any badge in the game. The Beast's AD, on the other hand, the only badge he's missing is limitless spot up, but this AD card is absolutely phenomenal. Great speed, elite defense, all-around elite card. Doesn't need a ton of badges added to him as well, which is super nice. His jumper is really good. Even his movement, while it may not be elite for a guard, is really good for a center as well. With his with the dribble style slasher, you can at least create a little bit with it. He gets certain burst animations and things like that, and overall, I think he is a top 2 center in the game, and I'm a huge fan of Anthony Davis and definitely think he deserves his spot in the S tier. Arliss Gilmore, I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually looked at this card's stats. I assume he's D tier. I could be wrong. 75 speed in Excel, actually, at 7'2". With that height, even though he can't shoot the ball, and he has good defensive badges, he's probably a really good defensive center. Jump shot 1 is okay, but he's with a 54 3. You're not going to be knocking that down. Because I put Drummond in C tier, I'm going to put Gilmore in C tier as well because he does have decent speed and really elite height, so he can mash for you on the offensive end. He should be a great rebounder and interior defender and even a decent perimeter defender as well. So that is nice. Should be able to knock down the mid-range as well with the jump shot 1. So I'm not going to put him in a D tier because of the fact that he does have that size, but overall, still not a great card at this point in the year. Arvydas Sabonis is a guy I'm kind of questionable about. I don't know where I put him on this list. Does he go A tier? Does he go B tier? I think he probably goes end of A tier, I would assume. Never mind. He's too slow. The size, and he does have great size, which is nice, but he's just kind of like a worse Yao Ming, who's probably a slightly better shooter. Missing a lot more badges. Doesn't have the defense that Yao Ming does have. Very slow, similar to Yao. Not as tall as Yao. 7'3" is still nice, but he's now 7'6". Really good shooter though, which is nice. His jumper is actually the same base as Yao Ming's as well. This is just a smaller Yao Ming with better shooting badges and better shooting stats in total, but he doesn't get the limitless spot up badge, doesn't get the quick first step badge, doesn't get pick dodger or ball stripper or things like that. So he's missing some badges for sure. And for that reason, I'm going to put him in B tier because I don't think he is that super elite option at the center position. Bam Adebayo is an undersized center, but at least he does have solid athleticism, 79 speed and excel, balanced defense, good slasher. He can shoot open even without badges like sniper. He can get catch and shoot, which is nice. And his jumper is very smooth. 62 is one of the smoother and easier to green releases in the game. Definitely an overlooked release at this point in the year. Same base as guys like Michael Porter Jr. and Wendell Carter though, and it's actually very, very smooth and very easy to green. Besides his low steal rating and low block rating, he is a solid defender anyway, and his badges on defense are good. And I just think he's another B tier center, probably simply because of the weakness of he might be C tier. He's B or C, I don't know, but definitely still in that lower tier because of the weakness of the center position. Ben Wallace is probably D because of the fact that he's only 6'9". He does have great speed, but literally is incapable of shooting the ball and is missing a lot of playmaking badges as well. He's a small defensive center and masher. If he was 7'1", he'd be in C tier because he's so small. Even though he's fast, I'm going to put him in D tier because he doesn't give you much of anything except for speed at the center position on the court. And that's just makes him a bit of a liability, I feel like, overall. I'm going to have to start putting guys in A tier at some point. I don't think Bill Russell is quite good enough to deserve that role, though, to be completely honest. Bill Russell is one of the, there's a few like really solid diamond centers in the game. I think Bill Russell might be the worst of those. Does have good speed and excel, which is nice. A solid jumper. In terms of his shooting ability, he's obviously like, he was an iced out cryogenic card, so he's glitched to be able to shoot the ball. Does need playmaking and shooting badges, but defensively he's really solid. Admittedly, another one of those a little bit undersized guys at only 6'10" without an elite size, or I'm sorry, elite player build. But set shot 17. Really bad. That does hold the card back. That prevents me from putting him in A tier when you compare him to other guys on this list who I think have much better jumpers. I think the jump shot is one of the most important attributes for any card, especially a pick and pop big in the game, and I think I put more weight on that than the vast majority of people in the community. So for me, that jumper kind of kills the card and puts him in the B tier. Whereas a guy like Bill Walton, I think I can put in the A tier because even though he's not as good of a shooter with his badges and his three-point rating going from like an 87 to a 74 and needing every shooting badge, if you add a couple shooting badges, a catch and shoot, a limitless spot up, a sniper, maybe final with quick first step. If you get a couple badges on this card, he's going to be a really knockdown shooter because he has a really good jump shot. 37 is super smooth, quick, relatively easy to green. Definitely a nice jump shot. Also, still has decent-ish speed, solid enough defense, good playmaking badges with half bullet, half dimer, as well as intimidator, post lockdown, and a bunch of good defensive badges on gold as well. And the fact of the matter is, for me personally, the fact that he has a little bit better size and a much better jumper is enough to outweigh the fact that Bill might be a little bit faster and things like that. So for me personally, I think Bill Walton is an A tier guy. Bob McAdoo is basically what I would say Ben Wallace would be if he could shoot the ball a little bit. McAdoo I will put in A tier because even though he doesn't have great size, he's incredibly fast, has good playmaking badges for a center, really good defensive badges, can get shooting badges like limitless, and sniper. Those two are big ones. Only a 63 three-pointer with a shoe. I think it's pretty knocked down. I did a gameplay on this card and I greened a relatively consistent amount of the time with this card with a 63 three-pointer, no added badges, things like that. It is really easy to green this year, and I think he really can knock down the jumper at a consistent level, especially with his jumper being super solid. Jump shot 5 is really nice for a big, same base as Clyde Drexler. Definitely really smooth and fundamental dribble style as well. Third best dribble style in the game after shifty and quick, so you can have better movement with him than the vast majority of other centers in the game. Also a really good defender, one of the more well-rounded budget cards in the game, and I think that A tier is super fair for him. Brad Daugherty is god-awful. I'm not even going to really waste much time with him. Low three-point rating, super slow, really bad defender, Jumper is super mediocre, needs a ton of badges, doesn't get a lot of key ones. Card sucks, I'm not even going to waste any more time than that. Brook Lopez, I don't know if he's A or B. Not a bad card per se. He is a little bit slow at 70 speed, but he is a good shooter, has solid shooting badges, 93 shot 3, can dunk a little bit, not the worst defender in the world. Doesn't get quick first step, but his defensive badges on the interior are really good, and on the perimeter even they're okay, as well as the stats. Jumper is really nice. I like Lopez base. I think he's better than a guy like Arvydas Sabonis. I'll move him up to the A tier for now. Not the most elite center in the world, still a bit slow, but I think he's good enough that you could probably put him in the A tier, or at least make an argument for him in the A tier, even if I do wind up moving him back down to B. Bryant Reeves, I think, slots in at C. He's not as bad as the guys in D tier, but he's still not a good card. I mean, look at him. 7 foot with 7'2" wingspan is good size, but he's slow. Really bad perimeter defender. Not great lateral quickness. Not good athleticism. Missing a lot of badges like limitless sniper, quick first step. Doesn't have a ton of total badges in general, just with only, what, 24 total badges on his base card. It's just not very good. Jumper is really mediocre. Fundamental dribble style is nice, but he's too slow to put it to use. He's better than the guys in D tier, but not by much. Still one of the worst center options in the game. Chris Anderson, I guess we'll put Chris Anderson in A tier. I feel like if I put guys like Bob McAdoo in A tier, Chris Anderson also deserves to be in that A tier. I might wind up moving actually Bill Walton down to B tier. I think I will. But 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan for Chris Anderson, 81 speed and excel, 80 shot 3, solid enough defender, really good dunker. Needs shooting badges, doesn't get limitless or sniper, but he can get some playmaking badges, which is nice. Really solid defender. Jumper is good. It's that same base that I talked about earlier with Drummond and Nate Thurmond, which is actually pretty smooth, quick, and easy to green for a big. Same base as Drazen, Petrovic, Joe Harris as well. So it's not a bad jumper whatsoever. Pretty good for a center. And although he doesn't get the limitless and the sniper, with a good jump shot, gold catch and shoot, you should be able to knock down with an 83-pointer pretty consistently. And then, yeah, otherwise, pretty complete card besides those shooting badges. So I think he's a super solid center on both the offensive and defensive of the court. And I think A tier is fair for a guy like that. Christian Wood is yet another just really... I mean, his jumper is good. He's got Ray Allen base, which is nice, but he's such a mediocre card. 6'10", not super fast, really, really average defense. Missing a lot of badges, and a card like this generally isn't worth badging out anyway. Doesn't get limitless. Ray Allen base is great, but doesn't have any sort of movement. He's a little bit undersized, especially with being a bad defender. He's going to struggle, especially since he's not elite fast either. For a guy like Christian Wood, you want him to have much better defensive ability to be able to use the card, and because he doesn't have that, I just can't put him any higher than C tier. Capella, I think, is one of the better inside centers in the game, so I will put him in the C tier instead of D tier. 6'10" with a 7'3" wingspan. He has a good player build, decent speed, really solid interior defender, great badges, playmaking, shooting badges. The fact that he doesn't get any, though, does kill him, like no bailout, no bullet passer. I just don't know if I could put a card like this, even with 79 speed. Can't shoot the ball at all, even from the mid-range, really. I mean, I guess he can, but set shot 14 is not completely awful. But no shooting badges, even from the mid-range, you're not going to probably feel super confident shooting it, even though it is definitely a greenable shot. The lack of playmaking badges really kills this card. The fact he can't get bailout or bullet passer, quick first step, or anything like that. I got to put him in D tier. I'm sorry, Capella. Just not a card I'd be using. Dave Cowens, I think B tier is pretty fair, next to guys like Walton and Russell and people like that. Again, just a really mediocre center. He's a little bit undersized. He's got decent speed, a decent shooter, can get any badge because he's a 75 card, really solid defender. Jumper is okay. Jump shot 1 at the same base as guys like Grant Hill. And I think, I forget what the other center is that I mentioned with it. Artis Gilmore has it. Fundamental dribble style is nice on a big. He's honestly very similar to a guy like McAdoo. I just don't think he's quite as good as McAdoo. Not as quick, not as complete, I don't think, badge-wise in terms of the playmaking badges. Does get more shooting. I guess you can add some good badges to him, which is nice. He does his slightly better shooter. But overall, I think he's probably a slightly worse McAdoo just because he doesn't have that same athleticism. And they both are capable of shooting, but I honestly prefer McAdoo's jumper a little bit, even though he doesn't have the same three-point rating. So for me personally, I think McAdoo's slightly better, so I'll put Dave in B and McAdoo in A. D-Rob, the question with D-Rob, and I'm going to look at the 75th D-Rob because I think that's the better D-Rob. The question with D-Rob is he still an S tier center? Because I look at this list and I see definitely I see 4 more guys who I'd rather put over him. So I'm going to put D-Rob at the A tier, at the top of the A tier, because I think he is probably the 6th best center in my team based on the options that I have in front of me. And D-Rob is a great card. There's no doubting it. He's 84 speed and excel still, 7'1", has a really good jumper, one of the better big man jumpers in the game, shoots the ball at a high level, needs limitless sniper, quick first step, bailout, and bullet passer, but with those 5 badges, he's pretty complete badge-wise, really good defender, solid badges, solid rebounder, off rebound chaser is really nice to help make up for the fact that his rebounding stats aren't in the 90s. Unfortunately, I don't think he's quite enough good enough defender or quite elite enough on the badge side at this point in the year to put him higher than number 6 just because of how many good centers 2K has dropped recently, but he's right at the top of A tier. Easily A tier and borderline S tier in my opinion. Then you have DeAndre Ayton, who is right up there with D-Rob. I mean, they're very, very similar cards. I feel like Ayton and D-Rob, same height, at 7'1". Neither of them have elite hotspots, even though I think D-Rob had one from the right or left corner. 10 hots though is nice on Ayton. Better overall badges with interceptor coming on him as well. A little bit more complete in terms of his base badges as well. Just needs like bullet passer, limitless sniper instead of all those 5 badges, which gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of adding something along the lines of a glue hands or a pick dodger, a ball stripper, or something like that. Really good rebounder. Jumper is super smooth and easy to green on him. 112 is super nice, and he has the fundamental dribble style, which is one of the better dribble styles in the game, like I've talked about a lot. Probably about the best dribble style you're going to find on a center in the game. And yeah, I think that puts Ayton just slightly over a guy like D-Rob into the S tier. DeAndre Jordan, I am not going to waste much time on. This card was not good when he came out. He's terrible now. Awful jumper. Can't shoot at all, not super fast, really mediocre defender, missing a ton of badges. I don't want to waste time on a card like that. And honestly, I'm going to throw Wilt Chamberlain right in that category with DeAndre. Wilt is maybe a slightly better version of DeAndre, but he came out first day of the game, not super fast, can't shoot at all. Terrible jumpers, the same one as DeAndre with set shot 17. Defense is really mediocre, needs a ton of badges. Just not a good card whatsoever. I'm going to throw both those guys into D tier and just get them out of the way. DeMarcus Cousins, on the other hand, is an A tier center for sure. Boogie is right up there with some of the best centers in the game. Same base as guys like Yao Ming and Arvydas Sabonis with his jumper, but it is pretty smooth and easy to green, I would say. 83 speed and excel, solid defender, pretty good badge-wise as well. Needs badges like limitless, bailout would be nice, interceptor, clamps. So there are some badges to add to this card, but badged out, he's not bad. He's a pretty solid rebounder with 93 rebounding and gold rebound chaser. Solid enough card. Like, he's not the greatest card in the world, but he's definitely super solid. I still think in the A tier he slots right in and does not look out of place whatsoever. Hanging out right in that middle of the A tier. Dikembe Mutombo is too slow to be any higher than C tier at this point in the year. Back in his day, when he first came out, he was the best center in the game for just a little bit. But he is 7'2", which is super nice, but only 64 speed. Missing a lot of badges, even though he is a glitched card and can get any badge. He's missing a lot of badges, and at this point in the game, he's just not worth badging out. Not a very good perimeter defender. Jumper is still really mediocre. Fundamental is nice, but with only 64 speed and excels 54 speed of ball, it's just not good enough to make use of that fundamental. So I don't think he's very good at this point. Still probably middle to, I don't know, middle to C tier. Definitely was a great card at the beginning of the year though, and I have some good memories of using Dikembe for sure. Dwight Howard is just another inside. There's a lot of these just like really mediocre insides. He's better than some of the insides on this list. He has good speed, solid enough defender, but he doesn't get quick first step or bullet passer. Can't shoot the ball at all. Jumper is really mediocre. Not that it would really matter even if it was a good jumper, because his shooting ability is so low. Defensively, he's super solid, but he doesn't get interceptor, which is a huge badge. Yeah, just another really bad inside. D tier seems really fair for a guy like that. George Mikan, I think, is still A tier. One of the better diamond centers in my team, right up there with guys like Chris Anderson. With solid speed and excel, really good dunker, good shooter, solid defender. Badge-wise, he's pretty good. Needs badges like limitless, quick first step, bailout, clamps, interceptor. But with those badges, he becomes one of the more complete centers in the game. Turns his badges, fundamental dribble style. Mentioned it multiple times. This video is great, and he has a really smooth, relatively quick jumper for a big man as well. Definitely a super nice budget center still, even if you have been looking for a center for a while. I think a guy like George Mikan can slot right in and be a good option for you. Hakeem Olajuwon is definitely super solid. Still not a card I locked in for, and not a card I definitely would lock in for at this point. If you have him locked in, you can still use him, but if you haven't locked him in yet, I wouldn't do that. That being said, he does have good speed and excel, really solid defender. He's one of the best rebounders in the game. I feel like he snags a ton of boards. Really good defensive badges. Does need some badges added to him, like a limitless, a sniper, a bailout, a quick first step. But besides that, he is really solid. Jumper is mediocre, not great. Movement, same thing, not great. But really good interior defender. Can shoot the open three-pointer. Has solid athleticism. Really good rebounder as well. Definitely an A-tier center in my team. And then you have yet another A-tier center, I think, in Jaren Jackson Jr., who has a really, really nice release. One of the better releases for any of the big men in the game. 83 speed and excel as well. 87 shot 3. Really solid all-around defense besides that steal rating. Good dunker. Playmaking badges, he needs a badge like quick first step. But overall shooting badges are already pretty good with limitless and sniper on gold. Catch and corner on Hoff. Can use some defensive badges like a rebound chaser as well. Maybe clamps, pick dodge, or ankle braces, something like that. But yeah, Really nice shooter, has a great jump shot. Definitely an A tier guy, I still think. Super solid card, no doubt about it. Joel Embiid, the pink diamond, is a C tier guy. He can shoot the open three and his jumper is good, but unfortunately he's too slow, really bad defender, missing a lot of badges. Not a complete badge in general in terms of his total badges. Jumper is really good, and he's solid, but no, that's C tier. I think that's pretty fair. Now, Opal Joel Embiid is probably, in my opinion, the best center in the game currently. 7 foot with a 7'5" wingspan, 4 out of 5 hotspots, 15 hoffs, include some good finishing ones: catch, corner, interceptor, intimidator, brick wall, pogo, stick post, lockdown, rim protector, box, etc. Elite interior defender, really good perimeter defender as well. Great dunker, really good athlete, really good shooter. Badge wise, he comes pretty complete. Can get limitless, can get unpluckable, can get things like that, and just even maybe a pick dodger and ankle braces. One of the more complete cards in the game, though, at that center position for sure. Really smooth, easy to green jumper. Movement still isn't great, but he definitely is an elite center and right up there with AD for the best center in my team. Jonas Valanciunas, his jumper stinks, so I'm not going to put him any higher than D tier, and he's super slow too. He's better than the guys in I'm not gonna put any higher than C tier, I should say. He's better than the guys in D tier, but he's still a really poor perimeter defender. Not a good athlete. Kind of a similar card to Dikembe, where he's not that great of a perimeter defender and he's really slow. So I think C tier probably is pretty fair for a guy like Jonas Valanciunas. Kareem is D tier. I don't really even think this is something that needs to be explained. He does have great size, but he's really slow. Can't shoot at all. No perimeter defensive ability. Missing a ton of badges. The card stinks. Don't ever consider running this Kareem. KG, I think A tier is fine for KG. Really good defender, which is nice. Even now, he's still a really good defender from being the level 40 reward in season 2. Good speed as well. Missing a few badges though. Needs some badges like limitless sniper, quick first step, bailout added to him for sure. Defensively though, like I said, really solid. Jumper is slow, but it's super easy to green, so that does help. And it's not as slow as, like I said, shot 17. Not the greatest jumper in the world, but it's still very usable. I think A tier is super fair for a guy like Kevin Garnett. Honestly, I'm going to put Kevin McHale in B tier. I think some people might take a little bit of an issue with that, but I just do not like this McHale card whatsoever. I know he has super long arms, but he's not super fast. I guess he's got decent speed. Needs a lot of badges. Defensive stats are really mediocre. Badge-wise, they're good, I guess, but don't jump off the page. The jumper is really mediocre. It's just not a card I'm high on. I don't think he deserves to be in that A tier because I'm just not very high on the card. I don't think he's very good. Speaking of a guy who deserves to be not only an A tier, but actually an S tier, that would be Kristaps Porzingis, in my opinion. KP is one of the best big men in the game. Even without the playmaking badges that he can't get, I love this card. 7'3" with a 7'6" wingspan. Elite shooting badges, solid finishing badges. Playmaking badges are pretty good, but he can't get quick first step, which hurts a bit. Besides that, he is pretty complete. Gets a couple defensive badges if you want to add them to as well. Jumper is elite. Fundamental dribble style is super nice. He's got 80 speed, which is great compared to a lot of the other big centers, the pick and pop guys in the game. So the fact that he has that is super nice. And I think in terms of his price, he's about as good of a center as you could possibly get in my team currently. Definitely deserves his spot in the S tier, in my personal opinion. LaMarcus Aldridge. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself with a lot of these cards. Similar to Jonas Valanciunas. Can shoot open, but jumper stinks. Really slow, really bad defender. I'm not even going to waste any more time. There's a lot of cards like that. LaMarcus Aldridge fits right into that description. Marc Gasol is probably better or about as good as a guy like Arvydas Sabonis, I will say, but I still think he's probably B tier. 7'1" with a 7'4" wingspan is good size. He's not super fast though. Shooting badges are solid. Playmaking badges are okay besides quick first step. Defensive badges are solid as well. So overall, solid card. Jumper is really mediocre. Upper isn't great. He's kind of just, he's okay. He's a B tier guy. Not an amazing card. Not the worst. I think that's pretty fair for a guy like that. Marcus Camby, on the other hand, can he shoot? Not really. 63 shot 3. What is his jumper? If he has a good jumper, he could probably shoot set shot 13. Never mind, this jumper is gross. I lied. Fundamental dribble style is fine, but the inability to shoot is going to hurt him. Can't get playmaking badges like quick first step, bailouts. Those are big ones to add. Really good defender, but just not good enough. I'm sorry. Sorry, Marcus. I got to put you D tier because you just don't do anything well on the court except for defend, and that's not enough for me. Yao Ming is the 5th S tier center in my team, in my personal opinion. Has elite size, even though he is slow and not a great three-point shooter. If you add a three-point shoe on him, add that speed to a ball shoe on him as well, he becomes just a force to be reckoned with. He definitely is. He's one of, if not the most dominant cards in my team currently, despite the fact that he is so slow and not an elite shooter. But he can get any badge because he's a level 40 reward, which is awesome. He's a really elite interior defender and rebounder. Really even solid on the perimeter defense most of the time. And jumper is solid. You can green open with this card without any sort of struggle. So yeah, Yao Ming is a monster. Not the best point guard in the game. I'm sorry, center in the game in my personal opinion, but definitely a great card nonetheless. And yeah, I think he deserves his spot in S tier. Mitchell Robinson, I'm just going to slot you in right with all your brothers who can't shoot in the D tier. Because Mitchell Robinson, another guy who can't shoot the ball. Really slow as well. 52 speed is horrendous. I didn't know his speed was that bad. No, I'm not even waste my time. Incredibly slow. Can't shoot. You're not touching court ever. Moses Malone is one of the worst cards in B tier, I think, but defensively he's still solid, which is nice, and he can green a wide open 3. 6'10". Jumper is okay, I guess. I remember shooting with this jumper. It's not as bad as it says with being a set shot. It is makeable. Fundamental dribble style as well is nice, but it needs a lot of badges added. Not an elite shooter whatsoever. I think B tier is fair. Toward the end of B tier, good defender, but doesn't give you enough to be any higher than towards the end of B tier. Speaking of towards the end of B tier, I think Miles Turner might be yet another example of a guy who's just not trash, but not good either. He is missing the bullet passer badge, which I think is a pretty crucial badge, so that does hurt Miles Turner a bit, but he's not the slowest. I guess he's not the fastest either, but he's not incredibly slow. Doesn't get any really key playmaking badges whatsoever, which does hurt. No bailout, no bullet passer, things like that. Does get limitless, which is nice. Already has sniper. Jumper is good as well. It's smooth, pretty easy to green, which is nice. Yeah, he's not bad. I wish he was able to get a couple of those playmaking badges that he isn't able to get, because those would really help him out. But even so, I will leave him toward the very end of B tier as one of the worst cards, admittedly, in B tier, but still there on the list. Nate Thurmond, to go join all your other NBA 75 boys in that B tier. Really good speed, elite defender, can shoot wide open with a 63-pointer. If you have a shoe on him, I've had some shots screened against me. You can actually green pretty consistently with it. Playmaking badges are really good. Defense is great. Jumper is really good. I talked about it a couple times this video. That 35, the same basis guys like Petrovic, Chris Anderson, etc. And overall, just another super solid card. I think that the B tier, no, not the B tier. Yeah, no, the B tier is pretty fair for a guy like Nate Thurmond. Jokic is like borderline D, I feel like, almost. I'm going to put him in C because I'm a nice guy, but this Jokic card stinks. I'm not going to lie. Really slow, really bad defender, missing a ton of badges, doesn't get quick first step, doesn't get any defense. This card's terrible. I'm sorry. I'm putting him in D tier. Just not a card I could ever see myself using in a million years. So definitely a D tier guy for that reason. Vucevic, probably yet another really, really mediocre B tier. There's a lot of mediocre B tiers on this list, I feel like. Just not a lot of cards that jump off the page at you whatsoever. But Vucevic is okay, I guess. He's got, what, 74 speed and excel, can shoot open, shooting badges are okay. Playmaking badges, same thing. Besides quick first step, they're all right. Needs bailout, but defensive badges are okay. His jumper is smooth enough and easy enough to green, even though it isn't the best. Fundamental dribble style with, what, 70 speed is not great, 74, but yeah, he's not the worst. Just not the best either. Really, really mediocre card. I think even B tier might be I'm actually going to move him down to C tier. I'm sorry, because he's so, like, he's slow too. Like, doesn't have elite size. Jumper isn't elite. Not a great defender. I'm sorry. We're putting you in C tier. You're not B. I'm sorry, D, but you are still C in my personal opinion. Rafe LaFrentz is kind of similar to Vucevic, I feel like, with probably worse defense and a slightly faster jumper. 64 speed and excel is horrendous. His defensive stats are really bad. His defensive badges and playmaking badges are also really bad. Jumper is good, but that's not going to save you when you're that bad of a card. I'm sorry. I'll still put you in the C tier because you're not as bad as some of these guys, but definitely not a great card. So definitely C tier seems pretty fair, and even toward the bottom of C tier for Rafe LaFrentz. Rudy Gobert is yet another C tier guy. I think he is probably one of the better big men in the interior in the game, which is nice. 79 speed and excel. Not going to be able to shoot at all. Playmaking badges are really lacking as well, but he is an elite interior defender. Does have great height at 7'1". Jumper is 41, which honestly is the same. It's only his jumper and Daniel House's, so I don't actually know how it is, but I don't think it's terrible if I remember correctly from previous years. But the thing about him is just the fact that he can't shoot the ball at all. That holds a card back. He's probably the worst or second worst card in D tier right there with guys like Rafe LaFrentz, but I will still leave him in the C tier because he has better size than most of the interior centers in my team. Serge Ibaka is right up there with the top centers in the A tier. One of the better centers in my team for sure. There's no doubt about that in my opinion. 6'10 with a 7'4 wingspan is elite. Hotspots from both corners. 7 Hoss includes some good ones, as well as Intimidator, Pogo Stick, Post Lockdown, and Rim Protector defensively. Overall, a really good defensive card. You can also get quick first step, bailout, things like that. Added to him already comes with Limitless and Sniper as well, which is super nice. Has great defensive ability, really good dunker, solid athlete, shoots the ball at a super high level, really smooth release. He is maybe the best budget center in the game. Easily an elite card and definitely deserving of being in the A tier. Haas Young Jin. How fast is Haas Young Jin? Because I think that really was going to determine where I put this card. Seung Jin Ha, there we go. 7'3 with 7'7 wingspan, 62 speed and excel. No shooting or playmaking really to speak of, except for maybe getting bullet passer, but not worth adding badges in general to this card. Set shot 9 is Lonzo's, which is not great, but it's not the worst set shot in the world. Fundamental is super nice for sure, but he's too slow to really make use of it, I feel like. Unfortunately, as much as I don't have an issue with this card, I got to put him in the D tier because he's so slow and can't shoot. And those two things pretty much spell doom for a card, generally speaking. Shaquille O'Neal, on the other hand, another guy who's really an inside, even though with his Evo, he does become a shooter, at least from the mid-range. From the three-pointer, still very, very questionable at only a 55. Speed isn't great. Defense is really solid, but missing playmaking badges like quick first step, bailout, bullet passer, limitless sniper. Things like that will really prevent you from improving as a shooter and things like that, and just player in general in my team. So for me personally, Shaq may be one of the greatest centers of all time, but I don't think he sniffs any higher than a C tier in a tier list currently in my team. Tim Duncan. I think Duncan slots right in here at the B tier along with a lot of the other cards in this game. The thing about Tim Duncan is the fact that every single year he's super patient with the ball and just overall doesn't make a lot of mistakes both in real life and in 2K. Does have a super slow release though, which does hurt the card a bit. I wish his jumper was faster. That would be nice. But that being said, he's a really good defender on the interior, solid on the perimeter, really solid athletic ability, can shoot when he's open, needs like quick first step, limitless sniper, things like that to help really improve him, as well as maybe a couple defensive badges. But if he has the coaching, I think this card's okay. He's not great, you know what I mean? Too many flaws, I feel like, with that jumper to prevent him from being any higher than B tier. With a better jumper, I think you could put him in the A tier, but for me, he's going B tier for now. Unselled is right toward the top of B tier. The problem with Unsell is that he's only 6'7". He's not the worst card in the world, but at only 6'7", he's so limited. 85 speed and excel is great. Really good defense, really solid dunker. Needs limitless sniper, quick first step, things like that. But with those badges, interceptor, he becomes one of the more complete cards at the center position. Just undersized, really good rebounder as well. The biggest issue, like I said, is the fact that he's undersized. He has Kobe base, fundamental dribble style. No flaws on the card except for the fact that he's like 4 inches shorter than our next tallest centers, 3 inches shorter than our next tallest centers. So I think that holds him back from the center position. Definitely a card I think you can run at the power forward position still, but at center, I would probably look a different way. And then finally, we have Wang Zizi, who I will throw in all honesty, at the B tier because he still is the best Ruby card in the game. 7 foot with a 7'4" wingspan, solid speed. Not the greatest defense, but he's a really good shooter. Dunking is okay. Even got a couple good playmaking badges, which is nice. And then just overall, jump shot 28 is really, really good. Super smooth and easy to green, especially as a lefty. And yeah, I just think this card is going to be an absolute monster. I'm really actually excited to see how good the next Pink Diamond Z could be, because this one is phenomenal and definitely has turned a lot of people onto your game. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I think Wang is going to be a really good card. And I'm excited for this Pink Diamond one that is coming on Tuesday. But for now, I still will put the Ruby one right here at the end of B tier. So yeah, that is going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.